Welcome back, Freedom Entrepreneurs. I'm your host and Freedom Engineer, Lindsay Sutherland, business consultant and energy consultant. And some would think, well, that's a really weird combination. And truthfully, it is. I used to really have struggle with that, where I felt like I was pairing up with this masculine and female energy, especially in the car business, right? Lots of masculine energy there clashing with my female energy, and I was working towards balancing that. And actually now I realize that that is who I am, is I am the person who is meant to bridge those together, to bring these two things that don't seem like they go together. And in my mind, it makes complete sense. For example, systems and strategy, you'll hear me talk about that. It's fantastic. In fact, I'm about to release an episode where I teach you how to build a system around social media management. It's a very masculine tactile type of system. And yet then here I am talking about the energetics of running a business, being a business owner, and really being an entrepreneur and a leader in your industry. And it's because without balance, without knowing who you are, without being aligned with yourself energetically, your systems and strategies really will take you only so far. And I know this to be true. It is why you'll see some people in same industry, one blows it out of the water in Facebook marketing, Facebook groups, or something like that. Similar person, similar business, can't seem to get her group going. Well, why is that? Because Facebook groups isn't aligning with her. There's something blocking her from doing that. So my point is this, when it comes to strategies and systems, and listening to other people guide you, almost always every way is workable. Like what I mean by that is, when you're in business and you're searching online, you get ads that pop up, right? Let me tell you what's changed with Instagram, or here's my YouTube strategy and why it's the best. And this is, yeah, all these little things. Everybody's system and process will work. Okay. Hands down. I mean, really, I haven't found one that doesn't work. Obviously, it's working, or they wouldn't be sharing their philosophy with it. But it doesn't work for every person, because not every person is aligned with that solution energetically. So that's why energy and getting clear on who you are first will help guide you towards the system and the strategy that is going to work for you. Like when I do a mapping session with a business owner, I not only map out marketing strategies that align with their client and their business model, but also with them. So if they are not somebody who will feel good about doing Instagram or getting on the camera, I'm going to show them ways that they can still be visible without having to compromise that inner voice. Does that make sense? It's really, really important that we honor that. And I think too often we have a masculine energy business that says, well, we need to power through. We need to just do what needs to be done to get the job going. When we do that, it drags on. We're not consistent. We're not in it for the long term. And often it fails, and it fails because it's not fully aligned. Okay. So today we are talking about rehearsing our vision. I have been doing a series on how freedom engineering and the strategic path to engineer the life that you love. That includes a harmonious business, a thriving business, a balanced lifestyle where you really feel fulfilled in every way. And it starts with a burning desire. So if you're just tuning in, I invite you to go back a couple of episodes where I talk about how to manifest a burning desire and the importance of it. Then we dove into how to uncover blocks, because that is going to happen. You're going to experience blocks. I'm reading a book right now by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it is called Rewire Your Brain. Now I'm doubting myself. I'm like, is that what it's called? Hold on just a second. He has so many books that are similar, so it's tricky to sometimes remember exactly what they are. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. That's the one. Anyway, the point was to say, here he's giving you the tips on literally how to break the habit of being yourself, because we want to become a new self, right? Well, what I learned from this is really pivotal to today's conversation. I learned, and this isn't the first time I've read this book. I think I've read this book. This is the second time in the last year. I always like to read them and just absorb deeper. But he says that what happens is our thoughts create an emotion. When our thoughts trigger an electrical response, it sends a signal to our glands that produce hormones that go throughout our body, and then we create an experience from that. Well, just changing our thoughts isn't enough. So just visualizing something or just thinking about something like an affirmation doesn't change who we are. It doesn't help us break the habit and become somebody bigger, higher level. Okay. It requires also having an emotional response. And this is where rehearsing comes in. So I'm going to teach you today how to rehearse and how to create with this experiential programming, so to speak, and what to watch out for. Because I've done this where I've done what I would call a rehearsal, but I hit a wall. And I want to tell you what that wall is and how to blow past it because it's really important. Literally, it is the difference between success and failure because this wall is extremely powerful. And it goes back to this whole thing. What he says in the book is eventually our body becomes the mind. So just like an alcoholic gets addicted to a drug or a caffeine addict. We're all caffeine addicts, so let's be honest, if we're drinking coffee in any way, shape, or form. You tea drinkers and herbalists are amazing. But I will say this, I know I'm addicted to caffeine, but I also know I can be in control of it. I can cut myself off for a few days, and when that happens, one cup of coffee can get me as juiced up as what 3 cups of coffee did, 2 weeks before. The reason for that, though, is because our body, our receptors within our body start to crave that level. And the same thing happens with negative thinking. The same thing happens with self-doubt. The same thing happens with victim mindset. But it can also happen with pure joy and positive love and vibrancy. Okay. So knowing this about your body is the way to hack your system. It's important. And I mean, I cannot stress it enough to understand this. It helps with twofold. It helps you when you hit that wall, and it also helps you to know that it is possible to have this on the flip side. Okay. Look at somebody who exercises. I was painting the other day with a friend of mine. She does a little painting class, and one of the gals in there was like, "Man, I have so much energy. I didn't get to exercise today." Her body craves the exercise. We can put ourselves in a position where we no longer crave these things that are holding us back. We can crave the things that are fueling us. This is the secret to freedom engineering, my friends, my lovely friends. Okay. So, how do we go about that? Well, go back and listen to Burning Desire because that's really important, and then learning how to be mindful of blocks. And now we're going to dig into once we're clear on those blocks and we've worked through them, just like I got said, we're clear at this point today, step 3. We are now clear on the life we are creating, the future of us. We could call it our higher self, we could call it our future self. I prefer to call it our true self. And the reason I say that is because of this. If it's in you, it's who you are meant to be. And when we say things like higher self or future self, it's almost as though it's separate from who we are right now. And it's like, well, when I get there, then higher self may be in another dimension or out of your brain in another level. Whereas future self is always going to be in the future. You're never going to feel like you can get there. This is saying I'm getting in alignment and I'm becoming my true self. My true self is already within you. Your true self is already within you. You do not need to really do anything other than give yourself permission to be that person. So it starts with getting clear on who you are, right? And that's where those last 2 steps really come in. So an interesting example, I got pulled this journal out. I can't really see it. Let me put it here. I pulled this journal out because this morning I was writing in my journal and I was going back. Well, I needed paper. And so I pulled this journal out to see if it had empty pages. And I realized I haven't written in this journal really since 2016. I wrote it once in 2024. So I had another journal that I was really filling out. So this one just got put on the shelf. What's fascinating, this is what's fascinating. I was reading another Joe Dispenza book back then, and it was called Evolve Your Brain. That's where I got the confusion earlier. The Science of Changing Your Mind. And I had written all these notes about it. And then I was putting it into practice, writing the greatest version of myself in an experiential way. And every day it was different. What I was doing as I was writing, I was letting myself energetically tune into this version of me that I saw in my mind and in my heart. And I was experiencing as if it was real. So rather than just sitting here closing my eyes and picturing it happening, so for example, I might say, oh, I want to drive a new car, and I might picture it. I might even put a picture of it up here. Not to say that isn't a helpful tool, it is. But and our brain will, with our reticulated activating system, our brain will attract us to the thing that our mind sees a lot of. Okay, that is definitely factual, but it happens faster when we tie emotion to it. And when we spend time elevating our energy to experience it. Um, so, some of the science that backs this up talks about how our atoms in like quantum physics is just so fascinating. But atoms, which are within us, are all around us, are bouncing in and out of present. Okay. And as we imagine and experience something, our brain doesn't know the difference between what we think it is, what we're telling it is, and reality. And we are programming our neurons to see more of what it is that we're experiencing. So when we stay stuck in victim mindset, when we stay stuck in lackful thinking, or when we stay stuck in sadness, sorrow, depression, it's so hard to pull ourselves out. Trust me, my friends, I know. I've been in those places. I'm going to give you a tip. If you struggle with depression, when we first moved up here, I got very depressed. I will admit I thought about suicide many times. I wasn't in a place that I could afford help. I didn't really wasn't in a place where I felt comfortable reaching out to anybody for that matter. I would sit outside and I remember I used to go with I had a friend of mine that was, well, she was my thought coach when I was 19. She became a friend and a leader in my life. She was a big part of AA, and I used to go to meetings with her, even though my dad was the alcoholic and I wasn't. It was still, I thought, worthwhile to go and understand the healing process. It was part of my journey too. And they're just for just for today, I will stay sober is their focus. I applied that to myself in that frame of depression. Just for today, I will find one thing to be happy for. Just for today, I will get through this day. I mean, I literally did that. I would pray. I would, I remember being in the shower like, God, give me a reason to live today. Just for today, I want one reason to live. And then I would look for that reason. This is the important thing that helped me. My brain started to get rewired from looking for reasons to leave to looking for reasons to live. And it took me a while to pull out of it, but it does get bigger and better when you focus on it. So I remember I'll finish this up by telling you this story that really helped it make sense to me. I don't know if you've ever heard of Matt Kahn. He's on YouTube. I was watching a video of his, and he said something like, "Imagine that our energetics, our evolution is like a bank account, and this pretend this piece of paper equals zero. Okay, this is zero. Well, when we're in a negative place, our deficit, we're down here. So whenever we're making deposits, energetic deposits like positive thinking or focusing on regrowth or these, looking for something intentional to give me a reason to live, even though I was doing those on a daily basis, I was still negative, okay? Because I was my bank account was my energetic bank account was so negative until the point at which I got to break even, and then it starts to become positive and it really starts to amplify. That being in my mind helped me stay consistent to the point where I'm like, I know at some point I'm going to equal zero. I don't know where it is, but it's going to come, and it did. So that's what worked for me. I hope that works for you. I just thought I would share that in case you're listening. But okay, back to the topic at hand. So we're talking about building a higher version of yourself, or aligning with your true self. So when you have a clarity about who you're becoming and what that looks like, and let's tie this into business, okay? So in my case, I feel the most vibrant when I think about my harmonious business. I can wake up in the morning feeling excited to see my clients. I feel juiced up and jazzed up when I'm around them. I really feel like I'm sharing and living my purpose, like I'm making a difference in their lives. And that feeling is so satisfying. S- Satisfaction, that word is so important to me. That is like a mantra that I say is like, I want to feel satisfied. I want to feel satisfied as a mother. I want to feel satisfied as a wife. I want to feel satisfied as a business owner. I want to feel satisfied as a human in the world. I want to know that when I die, I have lived my life to the fullest extent that I can, giving the most good and receiving the most good. It's a give and take. There's an energy that comes with that as I say it. I can feel it. I don't know, can you feel it as I'm saying it? Because it's so intense in me. And that isn't just me picturing it, it's me experiencing it as I say it. So that's where we come into rehearsal. So I'm a writer. I like to write. Maybe for you, it's talking. Sometimes when I'm driving, I do talk if I can't write. I find though that when I write, it's more I can get lost into the rehearsal more so than it's like playing a part. Think about when you go to rehearsal for um uh, like a play or something that you're doing. You're becoming somebody. You're becoming the character. You get into your character. When I'm writing, I can get into that character, and I want you to do the same thing. So here's the step one. You write it as if it's happening now. It's not a future thing, and that's really, really important. So, for example, I'm just opening up this journal to a page I wrote on August 12th, 2016. Today, I am knowing I am a creator. I like knowing people want to hear what I have to say. I am special because I constantly apply my learned truths and teach others how to do it. People are seeking their greatest version of themselves. People who are seeking their greatest version of themselves are finding me and paying me for guiding them. I love mentoring others. It keeps what I teach fresh in my mind for practicing daily. I like the accountability it holds for me. I am so ready for this. So, I mean, that was 10 years ago almost. And I was speaking it as if it was happening in that moment. But in that moment, for real, I was working at a job that I really hated. I was living somewhere with this burning desire to live somewhere else. And I could have focused on my reality. I could have written about, like, oh, I'm really looking forward to the day when I get to leave Arizona and go to Idaho. I'm really looking forward to the day when I can be doing something I love, like as if it's in the future. That's the key. You want to write it or speak it as if it's now. Now, the one caveat that I'll say is sometimes our brain will say, but it's not, and it feels like a lie. If that happens, we want to tune into the possibility that, like, I know I am infinite possibility. I know I am a creator. I know I have the power to speak these words and for that to those words to infect the world around me and to change matter so that it attracts this to me. And when that happens, this is what I'm going to feel. So see, I pump myself up so that I understand. I have to like remind myself how powerful my words are and why I'm saying them. And then it's almost giving myself permission to do it. Because our egos, I guess you could say, our psychology, our subconscious can really be a Debbie Downer. Okay, let me just say it like that. And Greg Braden was just talking on the School of Greatness. I was watching a video of him. He said, like Joe Dispenza says the body is the mind, and the way Greg said it was that our body becomes our subconscious mind. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that made even more clarity, more sense. And it ties in with what I learned about our body craving. So when we have a negative thought pattern and we have it over and over again, like, I'm not good enough, people don't want to hear what I have to say, blah, 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 we program our neurons to wire that way, thus producing electrical signals to produce hormones that create the experience of the result of that thought. Then we create lifestyle, like things in our life go, oh, see, that person didn't want to hear what I have to say. So it's true. People don't want to hear me. That's how it works. And we go through, and it just is like evidence that, oh, what I was thinking was true. And it confirms it. So we think it over and over again. Now we've got this programming. And now that programming has become our subconscious belief over time, and we want to break that pattern. And that's what we're talking about here. When we rehearse, it's going to elevate, it's going to literally physically move your neurons, it's going to elevate your energetic beingness, which is, by the way, 90% of who you are. But here's the caveat. This is the piece I want you to know about. And we touched on it earlier. But I noticed in my journal, I wrote about this. I did this immersion writing for 10 days straight. No, 11 days straight. And then on day 12, I wrote, yesterday, I allowed the train of negative thinking to run over me and carry me away. I remember this feeling of like being on the border of losing. I would say like the wheels are coming off the apple cart. I'm tipping into this negative thinking, and I let myself succumb to that. And I went on to write about what I did and how disappointed I was in myself. It ruined my whole day, and I let it waste an entire precious day. But what's even more concerning is I never went back. Um, I never went back to writing that experiential thing. Now, what I did do though, because it was 2016, I remember this, is I was doing that experiential thing on the way to work for, I would say, like roughly an hour. I would have to drive to and from work. And I would juice myself up and be talking about, as if it was real, living in my log cabin in the woods. And 2 years later, I did move into my log cabin in the woods. So rehearsals do work. But here's what happened: that negative thinking crept up inside of me. I succumbed to it because that was my body being the subconscious mind and pulling me down. And I didn't know it then. I just knew that negative thinking was an addiction. And I thought I should be better at controlling my thinking. And so then I just beat myself up. And then I went into this spiral of disappointing myself, right? My point is to say, I understand now things a little differently in that when this, because this recently happened to me, I had sent a text to my sister and I said, I'm upper limiting myself. There's another great book. It's called The Big Leap. I said, I've been really positive for a few days, and today I'm noticing my body feels like it's craving this um, poor me attitude. And I noticed my thoughts coming up, and things were actually happening in my life that were proving my point of negativity. It was like that day was just a crappy day. And it was different though, because even though I was experiencing it, I also had this other awareness that that was just my body pulling me down, and it's not who I really am. And I could say, this is temporary. This is not who you are. You're recreating who you are. And this is who are you becoming. And then I would shift into, my mode where I am like telling myself who I'm becoming, this experiential mode, rehearsing. But, and this is important, I want to share this with you because I want you to know this can happen to you. Even though I knew that's the tool that I needed to do to break through that moment, my inner negativity was so strong that day that I felt weak. I couldn't even hardly speak my truth. And when I did, it just was like limpy. I gave myself permission to just get through that day and start over the next day. Because at that point, two things were happening. I was just feeling more and more depleted. Honestly, I was so energetically drained. I just wanted to go to bed. And it was the middle of the day. I just was that energetically drained. But what's different between this person that I am now and who I was 10 years ago is I knew this, and I was able to rebound the next day and continue to stay on my path and continue to juice it up and be intentional about creating a new reality within myself. Okay. So this is really important. This is how you do a rehearsal. You write it as if it's happening now, and I would invite you to rehearse every part of your life, not just your business. Because as a business owner, our business ties really strongly in with everything, our marriage. Like, when you're maybe having a fight with your spouse, um, how hard it is to stay on course in your business. It can just ruin your whole day, or your teenager, or your mother, or your father, whatever. It doesn't matter. Relationships can derail us. The whole point of freedom engineering is about engineering our energy and being an energetic engineer. That is legitimately where freedom stems from. Because when we have that clarity, the confidence, and the consistency, we'll call it the three C's: clarity, confidence, and consistency, we will achieve everything our heart desires in just a matter of time. However, when we lose one of those legs of the milk stool, as you may say, it will slow everything down. And that's why this is so powerful and so important. And if something comes up in your life, and it will, like something will, this is not a if maybe, it's a if when. When something comes up in your life that seems like a barrier. So let's say, for example, your energetics has been rising so strongly. You are becoming that powerful person that you've desired. Suddenly, your spouse out of left field is angry at you and you can't even figure out why. Like your head is spinning. You're like, where is this coming from? Why does that happen? Because as we grow, it makes other people around us feel uncertain and uncomfortable and out of their safety zone. So they often will lash out. Their subconscious mind will lash out and hold you back. Again, same process. Stay true to yourself. Remind yourself of your experiential rehearsal, and give them some grace because they don't quite know what's going on. They're energetic beings too, and they're unaware of this change that's happening in you. And maybe share with them what's happening with you, and that maybe that's why they're feeling uncomfortable, or find a way if you can to reassure them, to help them understand that you're really not going anywhere. You're just changing and evolving, and that they're feeling it. Now, I have shared that with my husband in the past, and he did not understand. So, take it with a grain of salt. You can make your best effort, but stay the course, because eventually they get accustomed to your new vibration and everything will get back to normal. So, all right, my friends, I'm going to wrap this up today by inviting you to take action on this. If you haven't already gone back and listened to those last two episodes, please do. And then your homework is to start doing a rehearsal conversation daily. Even better, brownie points if you can do it morning and night. And there's a really fun tool, and if I get the time to make this video that I'm thinking of, I will show you how to make a mind movie. And it's a great way to help you get into that rehearsal mode. But I'm going to tell you something. I had a mind movie about moving to Idaho that was so vivid and so real that when we drove through Idaho, there were places I felt like I'd been to that I had never been to. I was so crystal clear on it. That's because I had such a strong burning desire. So I want that for you. I want your life to unfold like magic. I want you to experience life full of vibrancy and aliveness. And I want you to wake up every day feeling excited to tackle the day, to just live and experience the world around you, and to embrace the love and the self-growth that you deserve within yourself. That is what I want for you, my friends. And I would love for you to connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. Let's be friends. Start the conversation. Say hello. I will make sure to link my socials in the comments or in the description. All right, guys, until next time, bye for now.